Welcome back to Hometown TCG. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Josh.
And I'm John.
And we are back helping you guys prep for some of these huge events coming up.
That's right, we got the calling, we got nationals, but today we are talking about the road to nationals.
Absolutely, and we are going to give you guys a peek behind the curtain. When it comes to these more competitive events, it's very important to prepare, and how you prepare matters in your success. So our Patreon community in our Discord has put together an awesome plan to get everybody prepped and ready for these events, and we're going to give you guys a little peek behind the curtain as to what we're personally doing between ourselves and our community.
Exactly. So the first thing that we think you need to do is ask yourself, do I want to be a competitive player in this event? Am I going there for fun, maybe to just try some new decks, see how I can do, or am I really trying to win it?
Absolutely. And if you're trying to be competitive, it's important that you play a ton of heroes and a ton of different decks. The last thing you want to do if you're trying to be a competitive player is to say, let's just say Levia's my girl, and no matter what, I'm playing Levia without knowing how she stacks up against the rest of the pool.
That's right, because a lot of times the best way to learn how to beat a hero is to play as them, so you can learn their weaknesses, you can learn their lines of play and such.
That is a huge point. I find myself very successful against Warrior because that was the first deck I ever played, so I find I know what it wants to do. So I think that's a great point, and you also have to prepare for some of the out of bounds, off meta picks that you might see at the event, which brings us to the meta, and we plan, and our community plans to study the meta pretty heavily.
Yeah, so I think our first thing we're looking at is Chain, which is pretty obvious. We think Chain is going to be a huge competitor at all these Road to National events. So your deck that you're eventually going to play has to be able to beat Chain.
Absolutely, but that's not it. There will be a consensus amongst the community, and maybe a couple of decks that do stack up well against Chain. So you not only have to account for Chain in the meta, which we believe is going to be very, very relevant, but you have to account for the 2 or 3 decks that are coming to the event just because they beat Chain, right? Mm-hmm.
So once you've established those decks that you think can beat Chain or are Chain,
yes,
you got to make your choice from there. You got to make your choice with what you think can go better than 50-50, say, against Chain, and then who can also do well against these other picks you'll see.
Absolutely. That number you just gave is kind of a driving force in our community, and our plan is we want a minimum 50-50 coin flip matchup to be viable, and ideally we're shooting for higher than that.
Mm-hmm. And then once you get that deck that you're going to play, you just got to keep testing it out, get experience with it, understand all your matchups so you're not guessing the day of the event.
Absolutely. Playtest, guys. Get a group. Like I said, our community has banded together and come together with us over this, and we are prepping to playtest decks, guys. The more games you can get in, the more notes you can take, the more discussion you can have pre and post game, the more success you're going to see.
Mm-hmm. So you did your playtesting, you got that all done.
You got your stack, you're ready to go.
Stack, you committed to your deck. Let's talk about prepping for that trip.
Okay, so some of you guys, when you go to Road to Nationals, when you go to these larger events that we're going to get into later, you are going to have a bit of travel. You know, maybe it's not going to be next door. Maybe it's only 2 or 3 hours. Mm-hmm. Maybe you got to take a flight. Maybe it's a day. You got to get a hotel. And we recommend that you absolutely plan for that travel. You arrive early, you get settled in, so you're not rushing to the event and you're not disorganized, you're not feeling all anxious.
Mm-hmm. You're getting there early, and make sure you bring extra cards as well.
Oh.
Bring your singles, bring your stuff that maybe you want to sell or trade, but also just in case you have a realization or something that you know you need to make a change or two.
Absolutely.
You can do it.
The last thing you want before, and this is obviously before you submit any deck lists or anything like that, the last thing you want is to get some information on the tournament, to have someone mention something to you, have it click and light a fire in your brain, and then you got nothing to make that happen with. So make sure you bring your singles and bring extras. So that's kind of leading up to that. And again, I think it goes without saying, but make sure you get plenty of sleep, drink plenty of water, try to get some exercise to keep the body moving. I know that these are very general tips, but guys, they make a difference.
Yeah, and even mid-round, things that you can do are like getting that food and that exercise. Sometimes it's really helpful to just get up and walk in between rounds.
It keeps the mind going. It keeps the body focused. We're big fans of getting some kind of physical activity in. But you definitely want to consider the fact that it's also going to help you mitigate your jitters, right? A lot of people are going to have your tournament anxiety. When you sit down to that first game, your palms are going to be a little sweatier than usual. You might be a little shaky. You just spent a lot of time prepping for this event, so you find yourself a little nervous. So remember, get that sleep, get that water, and have confidence, guys. You put in the work, right?
Yeah. So let's talk about when we're playing. You got to trust that work that you just put in.
Oh, yes.
You've been having all this time where you've trained, you had the playtesting. Don't go in there and get intimidated by maybe what someone else is playing, or maybe you're seeing someone who's had a bunch of success. Maybe it's someone you've seen online, you know they're pretty good. Trust the training that you've done, the scouting you've done on the meta. Trust the cards that you're going to side in, side out, and all of that, and just commit.
Absolutely. So that goes for, like you mentioned, your sideboard, but it also goes for your general playstyle. I've decided when I see Bravo across from me, if it's a standard Bravo build, this is how I'm going to play. I'm going to play more aggressive. I'm going to commit to this because this gives me a better chance to win. Don't back out from that. Again, like he said, trust your training. You put in the work, and you know what you're doing. And also, during the event, feel free to kind of scout the event, as we call it. Talk to people. See what people are playing, especially going into Top Cut. You're going to hear a lot of murmurs about which decks are performing really well, which decks are not performing super well. Take all of that information in. It's important information.
It's huge because sometimes there can be multiple variations of decks, and you know what you're going to do against the control version, but what about the aggro version? So
that's huge. That's 100% huge. So yeah, scouting the event is very important. And then I think finally for during play, you got to remember to enjoy yourself. You're gonna play better if you're having fun.
Yeah, if you get too worried about it or too tense, your mind can just go blank sometimes, or you can overlook things because you're not relaxed enough to take it all in. So just relax a little bit.
Yeah.
Trust your training, and if you're prepared, you're going to do well.
You're going to do well. You're going to have a blast. And guys, this is the first of these events for a lot of people. So we really want you guys to remember, and this is something, again, we stress in our community, there is information to be gained from every win and every loss. Guys, even in a loss, there's no reason to feel dejected. It's time to learn from that. Why did the loss happen? What can I do better? Because if you come up against that exact same matchup in the next round, maybe you take it down.
That's right. And, even if you don't do the best at this event, there's a lot of Road to Nationals events.
Oh, my goodness.
And there's several calling events. So the first one that you play may not be the one that gets you your ticket or gets you your prize that you want.
Right.
But just learn from that and apply it to your next event.
So guys, as we said, this is stuff that these are tips we stand behind 100%. We are personally putting these into practice with our community, among several others, including several other schedules and interesting niches that we are going to do as a hometown TCG community to really try to have a good, effective, and really fun event. Do you have anything else? Any final thoughts?
I think that pretty much wraps it up. Just be prepared and have some fun.
Be prepared, have some fun, guys. Until next time, my name is Josh.
I'm John.
And we will see you on the Road to Nationals.